for me, running back then was, I'm going to run so I don't put on weight.
I didn't want to drink for a long time before I finally quit. And I didn't because I felt like I was letting people down.
You know, a little bit of me is better than a lot of me not focused. And I'm very good at saying no.
The word sober and sobriety is getting thrown around a lot at the moment. It's the health and wellness trend of 2024. Hi, I'm Michelle O'Brien. Welcome to the Upward Spiral Drink Less to Live More podcast. I am so excited today to introduce you to Natalie Dau, co-author of Run Like a Woman, corporate speaker on high performance and endurance athlete who at the end of May, in only a couple of weeks, is going to be attempting not one but two world records on a run from Thailand to Singapore, 1,000 kilometers in 12 days for charity girls. I cannot tell you how excited I am today to talk to Natalie about alcohol and the achievement ceiling. So it's the idea that alcohol, even in small amounts, can subtly limit our potential. So it's not about being blackout drunk, but it's a cumulative impact on key areas that are crucial to success. So today we're going to discuss with you, can you be an ultra athlete and still drink even occasionally? Today is actually a really personal interview for me. Running has been my reason and my excuse for a long time to not drink. So I've always been a runner and I always dreamt of running a marathon. But to be honest, I just didn't have it in me until I gave up the booze. Since I did give up the booze, almost 2 years ago, I've run 2 marathons and countless halves, and I'm ready for something maybe a little bit bigger. So I am honestly in awe of this woman. I'm going to try my best to keep the conversation on track and not go down a massive rabbit hole or on a running tangent. But hello, Natalie. Welcome to the podcast studio in Singapore. Thank you so much for coming in today. How are you feeling?
Thank you very much for having me. Good, a little bit of ground rush as we get closer to the big project, but excited to talk to you about the training and drinking and if I do, if I don't.
Yeah, of course, right? So how many weeks is it? When do you set off?
So it's set off on the 25th of May, so very soon, and finishing on the 5th of June. So we're just under 3 weeks, to go before we head up there.
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. So just tell us a little bit more about Project 1000.
Sure. So yes, as you said, it's 1,000 kilometres from Thailand to Singapore. So it'll be 2 marathons a day for 12 days, back to back, no rest days. And the reason I'm doing it is I did a lot of racing last year, probably more than what I wanted to do, and thought there must be something more to life than just entering these races, and thought I would do some good and challenge myself in a different way. So the idea being that sometimes you've got to do something crazy to get attention to something. So I'm raising money for a charity called Girls, which empowers young girls through sport. So really targeting the underprivileged girls and empowering them about body imaging and teaching them that sport is a way out of maybe a community that's not so good for them. And then, of course, from a personal level, it's just to see what I can do physically and mentally as well.
Oh, my God. It sounds so incredible. I'm so excited. Are you feeling ready?
I'm feeling somewhat ready. I don't think you can ever be ready for something like this. My coach assures me that I'm ready, but I think I just want to get started now and get it going.
Yeah. Oh, and we were saying just before this, just even to have maybe some quiet time on the road amidst all this chaos must be something nice to look forward to.
Yes, yeah, that. But then I keep forgetting there's going to be cameras in my face the whole way as well. So I think by the end of it, I won't care.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially when things get hard, right? You hope, towards the end of every marathon, you're doing 2 marathons a day, right? For 10 days.
12, yeah.
12 days.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I definitely pull some hideous faces towards the last 10 kilometres of a marathon. It's not a pretty sight.
I'm sure there'll be vomiting and crying and all sorts of things. But yeah, part and parcel, leave it all out there, I think.
Oh, for sure. And is your daughter coming with you?
My daughter and husband are coming at the beginning for the first couple of days in Thailand, and then I'll see them at the end of it. So I think probably better for my marriage that my husband's not coming. But yeah, so I've got some great people that have given their time to this project, and I'm sure we'll come out either really loving each other or never speaking again after it.
Oh, it'd be amazing. Like, you know, during it, everyone will be thinking, why the hell are we doing this?
Yes.
But then at the end, it's like childbirth, isn't it? You forget the pain, and at the end, you're like, oh, that was amazing. Let's go again. Yeah. I'd love to know a little bit more about your story. What has led you to this point, maybe in career, life, and kind of running this distance?
Yeah, so I mean, I was always an active kid. I grew up in Australia. Family were very active. Parents were involved in all the sport that myself and my brother did. And then I think, you know, like anyone, go to uni, get your first job, you're working hard, you're partying hard. And for me, running back then was, I'm going to run so I don't put on weight, which is, obviously a very common thing. I'd get home at 3 a.m, maybe set my alarm for 6, go for a run before I'd get into the office and just do it over and over again. So I had no emotional connection to running at all in my 20s. And it really wasn't up until, I guess, my 30s, and I started to look at things in a different way that I changed my relationship even with exercise at that point. Started doing triathlons and then ended up with rheumatoid arthritis at that point, which was interesting. A little bit later, deep vein thrombosis. So I had a few major health scares during that time and still, going out aggressively somewhat, living in Singapore, living a good life, and then ended up getting pregnant and sort of cut back from there. And I guess, working full-time in the corporate life, having a new baby, not feeling like myself at all, my body not feeling like itself. And then, 3 months later, I'm on a plane back to the US for work, leaving a new one at home. Wasn't a highlight of my life. But running was something that I guess was consistent throughout that I could control, because there wasn't a lot of things in my life at that time that I guess I could control. So I was that crazy person, jet lagged, running around Seattle at 5 a.m. or something like that, which probably wasn't safe in hindsight. But that's something that I knew that I could do back then.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many similarities for sure. It was, I ran to keep the weight off. I ran to punish myself, maybe for heavy nights and drinking and eating and everything else. Like, it wasn't always healthy. And I kind of started running kind of in my early 20s but always returned to it. And eventually it kind of became my safe space. It became my therapy. In a lot of ways. And then, after I left the UK 10 years ago, moved to Singapore, I had to almost feel like I had to almost learn to run again, especially in this heat and the humidity. And I had a kind of a lax ACL, which needed some work on as well. But yeah, very similar to you, had babies. And then I was like, actually, okay, I'm ready to maybe take this to the next level. So tell me from where, when did you go from maybe running for a hobby as to running competitively? Yeah,
so I started, I guess it was after my daughter was born, and I started just entering a couple of 10K races and was doing well and winning some of them without really training. And then I sort of fell into Spartan racing as it was starting in Asia. Just by chance, really. I met the founder and he said, come and do it, and I loved it. And then I started winning those and going to some world champs, and, so running was a big, big part of that. I loved the thought of being uncomfortable and doing something that was a lot more raw than, standing in a gym in aircon. So loved that, but also got sick of it after a while because it is a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, what's something else I can do? So I decided to go and do track. So I've been in all different aspects of running. I never did track at school, and so it's like, okay, I'll go do masters track. I'll run 400, 800, 1500. Never done it before. Did well at that. And then it was, okay, what's the opposite of this? Maybe I'll go run 100. And I'd never ever run a marathon in my life. So I was like, okay, well, let's just skip straight to a 100 and see what that looks like. And I did do a marathon in the lead up as a training run, but I really just wanted to get out of comfort zone and you know, just see what I was capable of, I think.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Which 100 did you do?
So I did 100. It was actually in Singapore, of all places. I know, horrific. So I remember getting to the start line, no idea of how to fuel or what I'm doing, like a handful of candy and, you know, and whatever. I told my husband to meet me halfway along the route with a couple of honey sandwiches. And off I went. My headphones broke within the first 10K. So it was like, okay, well, that just means I'm listening to nothing for this time. And I sort of just one foot in front of the other, saw him and my daughter about 46 Ks. He's like, you're looking good. You're doing well. You're up there. I'm like, okay. So just kept running. And it was about the 14K mark to go as we hit East Coast. And there was one guy in front of me and I passed him and then realised I was in the lead.
Oh, my God.
And it was just like, oh, my God, what do I do? Like, I'm winning this thing. And I ended up crossing the line first to everyone's dismay. And I think from then I was hooked. So, but it was a really almost spiritual experience in that I was 100% present that whole time and not solving world peace, not thinking about anything in particular, just present in that moment. And I think that's a hard thing to find in life. And so I think that was what got me hooked.
I love that so much. And I completely understand. Like I almost kind of go into these meditative states sometimes when I'm running, especially kind of when you've got the long distance. And yeah, often we'll turn the book off, we'll turn the music off, and we'll just be alone with your thoughts, and it's beautiful.
Yes, yeah, it's special. It's really special. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're my hero. I'm like, if I go home tonight and say to my husband, I want to run 100, he's gonna divorce me. He's gonna be like, I said you can have one marathon a year, and that's it. How is your husband with this? Because this is a lot of running and time and energy.
Oh no, I feel sorry for him too. Yeah, he's very patient and supportive, which is great. We each have our own sports, but support each other around that, which is good. I think if he was an ultra runner too, we'd probably drive each other insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we do run together, but maybe 12 Ks is his comfortable limit.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. One of my dreams is to get my kids to run a marathon with my kids one day, and they've seen me run 2 now and they're. And they keep saying, we want to run a marathon with mummy. Obviously, they're only 3 and almost 5. So we've got a long way to go. But I really hope that we could do it one day. Yeah. Does your daughter want to do one?
So not a marathon. She's now 15. And so I've got her out running with me a couple of times a week. I'm not going to say that she loves it, but she puts up with it. And at 15, I didn't love running either, to be fair. But I really cherish that time with her. And I hope it's something we can do longer term as well. So she's sort of talking about doing cross country at school now, so it must be rubbing off slightly.
Yeah, she's going to get the bug for sure. It happens, especially kind of when you get into your 20s and you're like, you found your thing, and a lot of the time for a lot of people it's running, right? How did this drive to push the limits come about? Like, was it there, or is it something that developed over time?
I think I've always been very self-driven, so always pushing to be my best, and I'm very competitive as well, more so with myself than anyone else, but really it's always been there, and it's just come out now as I've got older in running. I think the corporate days aren't there so much, so it's not the push there, so it definitely comes out on the road now.
What had to change, like, in your life to start reaching these much bigger goals?
Yeah, I think with my health scare in my 30s when I had my rheumatoid arthritis and the deep vein thrombosis, I was on blood thinners and medications, and so I couldn't drink back then. So it was a natural stop and a good excuse almost to stop drinking. Not to say I gave up altogether, but there was a gap, and then pregnancy. And I think once I had my daughter, I just didn't want to be hungover anymore. I guess, that was the thing. It's just got harder. It wasn't such a priority to be going out. So I think as I've got older, I've just naturally cut back on that and just, don't miss it.
You sound just like me. I'm like, everything that you're saying, I'm like, oh, right, okay, maybe we're the same person. Maybe I found like my twin. Have you always been this kind of functional high achiever, or have you had to kind of work on finding balance? Does something have to give?
Yeah, I think especially as females and as mothers, we beat ourselves up to be a mother, to be great in business, to be personal, to be the best friend, to be the best daughter, whatever it is. I think it's a really hard balance, and I think I'm a bit more at peace now with being present when I'm there rather than being something to everyone. A little bit of me is better than a lot of me not focused, and I'm very good at saying no. So that's I think a talent and a skill that everyone should learn. So unless it's a hell yes, I'm a 100% no. And I don't feel guilty about it. I've let that guilt go. So for me, I know what my priorities are. It's my family first and foremost. Obviously, it's my training, it's my work. And then everything else fits in after that.
I'm exactly the same. I've learned to protect my energy. And I think a lot of that in my kind of 20s, living in London, and just saying yes to every party, yes to try and fit the gym and my training in, and, yes to everything at work. And it was just burnt out constantly.
And as you get older, you don't have FOMO at all. It's like JOMO, right? I'm so glad I'm not there. It's. I think if you're comfortable, then you don't mind. Yeah. You don't mind saying no. You're not missing out on anything. Actually, you're gaining because you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And we had to cancel all plans this weekend because we were feeling a bit under the weather, and my little one was sick. But on Sunday, we were sat in the pool, my husband, and we were just like, oh, it's been so nice to not have to host people, not have to do anything. And we need to start making, to having at least one weekend a month where we cancel everything and we just do nothing.
Yes. No, I think so. I think people don't appreciate their own time or don't value their own time enough. And once you start doing that, then it is life-changing, I think.
For sure. And when you maybe kind of started to drink less, how did your husband find that?
Yeah, he's not an all or nothing, but he likes to be social, but he's also very health and fitness focused. So he's okay to say no to things as well. Yeah. So he works very long hours. So when he's home, he doesn't enjoy feeling hungover, and he actually, a bit like me, likes spending time with the family. So a lot of times I go, you go, I'm happy to stay home. And sometimes he would, and sometimes he wouldn't go either. So I think he's a little bit more social than me, but he also values it. So, last week he had some friends in town and went out a little bit, but that's an outlier for him, really. So we've both almost, I guess, taken on this different approach to life, and he might indulge a bit more on holidays or something like that. But during the week, we lock it down pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, we're exactly the same. I've got a kind of a bit of an introverted husband, and you wouldn't know it because he comes across like he can be a bit of an extrovert, but actually he's so happy staying at home and cooking great food and chilling out. So I feel like very blessed in the fact that kind of our social life didn't change
Yes.
massively. You know, we didn't necessarily like lose loads of friends, which I know can happen when people stop drinking less. And actually kind of our social life almost got richer because the time that we did spend with people, it was quality. And like you said about being present, we were present when they were in the moment, really kind of enjoying the time spent together, and we remembered it.
Yeah, and I think you attract the right type of people then. So if the ones that are in your life because you're going out partying, then how deep is that relationship? Whereas your likes attracting like, and if you are enjoying these experiences with people that don't necessarily involve drinking or involve one drink or whatever, but are not based around that, then it's a very different relationship.
Yeah. And then your community gets bigger as well, right? So you must have met lots of incredible people on all of these journeys, right? All of these races and the runs and the community that's out there. Tell me a little bit about that community.
Yeah, it's great. You know, it's positive, which is fabulous. And I always joke that if you don't see me in the morning on a run or at my coffee shop afterwards, then you're probably not seeing me for the day. Yeah. So the community is very much an early morning community. I met one of my best friends now during COVID, and we would pass each other running, and it just sort of started with a smile and then wave, and then one day we both just stopped and talked to each other, and you know, she's a national marathoner and I didn't know who she was, and now we're best of friends. But it's really nice that there's natural connections like that, and communities that I've met. Most of my racing is done overseas, and so especially in Malaysia, and the people that I've met and the generosity and the kindness is fantastic, and I wouldn't have met them without doing this. So it's really opened up a new world, and blessed to have so many lovely people in my life.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm exactly the same. Some of my closest friends now I've met, you know, whether they were a fitness instructor or, you know, in classes, and we spend so much quality time training together. The community itself is wonderful, and again, very kind of accepting of that lifestyle change, you know, and actually kind of going into that community and saying, yeah, I really want to hang out, I'd love to go for dinner, and if you drink or you don't drink, it's not an issue.
Yes, that's right. I do love that. If you're going out, I always say, with running friends, generally there's not a lot of alcohol involved, and everyone's home by 8:30 because they've got to get up and run in the morning, so it's fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's up for sharing one of every dessert on the menu. Yeah. I'm like, or let's go for pasta.
Or massages. There's always reflexology involved at some point too.
Oh, now you're talking. Yeah, you know what I want? I want the 6 p.m. pensioners special with all the desserts and a foot massage to finish.
100%.
God, what a night out. Like, don't ever invite me to dinner past 8:30. These people who book dinner for 8:30, hell no.
Yeah, like, I haven't done that for years, so it's not happening.
Hard pass. I'm not interested. Okay, cool. We can be friends then. Bringing it back to the performance, like what changed with your performance maybe when you stopped drinking?
You know, aging goes alongside with that journey. I think it's the ability to back it up every day. So it is, you know, if it's a 4 a.m. start, then even, you know, a late night and a couple of drinks the night before just makes it impossible. You're feeling terrible. You're not going to perform. You're potentially going to injure yourself. So I think, you know, that was the biggest difference, is the ability to do it day in, day out and stay injury free.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. It is that injury free, right? And I think it's, even 1 or 2 drinks, it would take me days. Like, my training would be off all week. And if my training was off, my mood was off because I was irritated with myself and I was annoyed with myself that I'd done that to myself, that, you know, and I wasn't getting out of it what I wanted. And so it's that kind of cycle as well. It's the mental, not just the kind of physical impact.
Yeah, and you feel bloated and you're feeling terrible. Yeah. And, you know, for me, if I drink with my rheumatoid arthritis, the next morning I'll wake up and I can't hold a hairbrush, so I can't brush my hair. Oh. So alcohol massively impacts that for me. So it's a big decision if I'm going to drink or not. And then put running in on top of that, it's, you know, your recovery, you just don't recover.
I think the running in this heat as well. So like we're based in Singapore. It's 37 degrees today with a 95% humidity. It is horrible out there. And I drink 4 litres of water a day, and that's just to kind of maintain where I'm at. You just can't do it, right? One glass of alcohol is going to impact your hydration.
And your sleep. People forget how bad it is for sleep. For me, one glass and eating late, and you combine the two, it's just like that's a write-off for 2 days.
Yeah. I'm really trying to shift my husband to an earlier dinner time. So we eat at 6 o'clock with the kids because I'm a big believer in kind of the family dinners, and I want to really start that at a young age with them. But he is still like, I just need, a 7:30 dinner, and we're kind of loggerheads with it, trying to get that early dinner in, because I've noticed that the earlier I eat, the better I feel, the better my sleep's going to be, and the better my training is in the morning.
Tell him to get on board. We did that years ago.
I know.
So, yes.
I know. I've managed to get him for the 5:30 a.m. wake up. So, he's got a trainer. He's in the gym now at 6 o'clock. So I'm slowly chipping away at it. Just give me another 10 years, and we'll be right where you guys are. When you do drink, what would be the occasion for you to pick up a drink?
I don't feel like I need an occasion, but I mean, not that we're very social. It might be, I'm just trying to think, my birthday was recently. I didn't drink on my birthday. It might be a holiday. Sometimes it's just that, watching the sunset in the Maldives or something and having a drink. So it's sort of dependent on something like that. I did have a glass of red wine in France, recently. It's generally location more than occasion, I think. We don't reach for a bottle of something to necessarily celebrate a bit. We're like, I'd rather eat cake. Use my calories same. That way. So I think it's definitely more location than occasion.
It's just a feeling, right? Isn't it? It's like, you're in this moment, and I get that. I think occasionally I'm with my husband and we're on holiday together. We're having a moment, and and he's like, I'd quite fancy a glass of wine. That being said, I'll have a sip of it and then I'll go, oh no, actually no, it's. And it's not a mental reaction, it's kind of a physical, I've just lost the taste for it now and, just not interested anymore. I think that can kind of happen after a long period of abstaining.
100%. And my taste has changed too. So from I can't touch white wine, I'll have a drink of red wine if it's cool, a sip. But apart from that, it's like maybe a gin and tonic or an Aperol Spritz, but that's it. My repertoire is dwindled. I used to not mind a glass of champagne, but even now that's like, it's too acidic. So taste buds do massively change.
Oh, completely. And I know, after the marathon, we both did, for anyone listening, we both did Paris Marathon a month ago. I can't believe it was a month ago yesterday, 4 weeks ago yesterday. It's gone incredibly quick. But after the marathon, kind of my husband, my mum, they bought a bottle of champagne. Perrier Jouet used to be my favourite champagne. And they bought it for themselves, not thinking I was going to have any. And they poured me a glass. I just a tiny little one. I'll just have a little bit. 2 sips in, I was like, nah, the taste, I've just lost the taste for it. And I was like, it's a bit of a shame almost. But I was like, actually, it's probably a good thing.
But you also have learned, so a lot of people just drink for the sake of drinking it then. And it's that ability to go, actually, I don't really like it, so I'm okay to say no.
Yeah, exactly. It takes you a while, doesn't it, maybe to find your tribe or for your tribe to accept you as a non-drinker. And once they know as someone who mostly doesn't drink, then there's never, that pressure completely goes away. I also think that pressure goes away when you become more confident in who you are and your choices and your decision not to drink. And it's taken me a while to actually say the words, I don't drink, I'm a non-drinker. But I'm a lot more kind of confident now. Like if someone starts to give me a bit of shit about it, I'm like, I can give it back quite quickly and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm quite comfortable and confident in being able to say, no thanks, I'm going to have this instead. Non-alcoholic alternatives have been amazing. And that's a lot of who I've spoken to on the podcast so far is founders of non-alcoholic drinks. But the non-alcoholic gin and tonics are amazing.
Yes.
They almost taste better than the kind of alcoholic version. Some of the non-alcoholic beers are brilliant. And so if ever I do feel like I would really like kind of a nice, refreshing gin and tonic, actually choosing a non-alcoholic alternative is enough.
I think there's only so much sparkling water you can drink, right? So you do want something else every now and then. So those drinks are amazing, especially if they're in the cans and you've got them in your, you want to pop one out or whatever it is. And now there's a lower calorie form as well.
So many have got low sugar or no zero sugar as well. And you see that kind of with the non-alcoholic wine. It's like, 2 grams of sugar per 100 mils. They've got less than 20 calories in a glass. So, if you are looking, kind of watching your sugar intake, watching your calories, then they're a great alternative. You can still drink something sophisticated. You're not having to drink just a soda water or a soft drink.
Yeah, and gone are the days of the only non-alcoholic drink on a menu was the really sweet cocktails full of fruit juice and lemonade.
Yeah, times are changing, and we're seeing that a lot in Singapore now. The non-alcoholic alternative is becoming a lot more sophisticated. So it's becoming a lot easier to not drink.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I remember, so when I, kind of 15 years ago, I was vegetarian. I'm not anymore. I felt kind of after the pregnancies, I needed to kind of eat meat and keep that protein up. But, when I first became vegetarian, it was quite hard to get, and it's the same thing, right? It was quite hard to get really amazing vegetarian and vegan meals. It was the same stuff everywhere that you went. And now, wherever you go anywhere, they've got fantastic vegetarian and vegan options on the menu. And that, I believe that's what's going to happen with non-alcoholic alternatives as well. Eventually, the non-alcoholic alternatives, on the menu will be comparable to the alcoholic options that you've got.
Yeah, and I think they have to too, because I look at, my 15-year-old daughter, and, I look at the culture of when I was growing up drinking versus the culture that she's experiencing now. And I don't know if it's because we live in Singapore, but, by 15 I was drinking.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't. None of her friend group does, and none of them have a desire to.
Yeah.
So not saying 15-year-olds don't drink here, but her friend group doesn't. And and I'll offer her a sip of something. It's like it's not taboo, like you're going to try it. But she has no real desire, doesn't think she's missing out on, doesn't think she needs to do it. She's happy with a ginger ale. That's a treat for her. Yeah. So I think the kids coming up, it's very generational and very different. So they're going to demand that these other options are out there.
Absolutely. I can't wait, actually. I can't wait to watch my kids grow up into this because, they're a lot more kind of confident in who they are. They're a lot more confident to be able to say, you know what, no, that's not for me. They've grown up watching kind of millennials get trashed on like these horrible reality TV shows or on social media. And they're like, first of all, I don't want to look and behave like that. I don't want it captured on camera. And, it doesn't look like fun. And they're also a lot more health conscious, a lot more aware of what they're putting in their bodies. And actually, the reality is alcohol is poison. And it's not good for you. As much as it can make us feel great sometimes, it isn't good for you. And they're becoming a lot more aware of that.
Yeah, and I don't think alcohol equals fun for them anymore, whereas it did for us.
Yes. Massively. And that was one of the hardest things about letting it go. I didn't want to drink for a long time before I finally quit. And I didn't because I felt like I was letting people down.
Yeah.
Because it was like my whole life, everybody around me drank. Every single person that I knew drank. And how people had fun was to have a drink. It was that just complete association. And so, but that's, again, changing.
Yeah, and I think to that point, it's always about how other people feel about you not drinking, right? So when I don't, and I haven't really drunk a lot for a lot of years, people are like, oh, but, I'm like, I can still be fun. I can still have a conversation. I can still go out. It's okay.
I can still dance on the tables.
It's just it makes you uncomfortable that I'm not drinking. It's not actually about me not drinking. It's about you feeling uncomfortable that I'm not drinking. So, I always giggle at that because it's never about the person not drinking. It's about the other person who is drinking.
Completely. And it's so funny. I find that when you've got a non-alcoholic wine in your hand, even if the other person knows it's non-alcoholic, it still puts them at ease.
Yes.
It's like there's this subconscious switch in their head that they go, oh, look, we're mirroring each other. We're both having a drink. And okay, I feel like I can relax a little bit more now. It's all very funny. I definitely want to get into the psychology of that a little bit more. I need to kind of find someone interesting to bring on the podcast to dive into that. So why less and not nothing? Most type A people, myself included, are all or nothing. Like, how did you decide moderation, even be it kind of very little, was right for you?
Yeah, for me, I just didn't want to put a label on it or commit to something that I didn't feel like I needed to commit to. And my husband, Matt, and I spoke about this because he said, I think I'll just give up. I'm like, but why? You don't really drink much anyway. And why do you have to put those constraints on? So I didn't feel like I couldn't control what I was doing and I had to put a hard stop at all. So it's like there's flexibility in there. And if I want to have a drink, I will, but 95% of the time I don't. So I guess that's it. Everything else I'm 100% in with my life. But this was like, oh, it's okay. You know, it's a bit like giving up sugar. I don't need to give up sugar completely. I still want to opt in when I want to opt in.
I think this is awesome. And I think it's such a great conversation around kind of that label. Because right now I'm struggling with that, with the label of sobriety, of being sober. Yes, I haven't drank and don't drink. But that word sober for me feels like I never want to take anything away from somebody who's in recovery, who's got an alcohol addiction, who's working really, really hard to stay sober. And I think maybe the word sober and sobriety is getting thrown around a lot at the moment. You know, it's the health and wellness trend of 2024. And, you know, but I think actually calling myself a non-drinker feels like it fits for me. And if I had a sip of champagne after a marathon, then it's not something I'm going to be punishing myself about. Yeah. I'm not going to be like, well, you know, I broke my sobriety. I need to start all over again. There are less rules around it and maybe it doesn't stress myself out as much. And I think maybe kind of that's similar for you rather than saying, you know, I'm a non-drinker or I'm a sober. Actually, just for the most part, I don't drink. Yeah,
I just choose not to drink most of the time. And I think for some people need that line in the sand of saying, I'm drinking or I'm not. So, you know, different personality types, I always find males almost need that because they get the pressure to conform maybe a bit more. So for them it's easier just to say I've given up, you know, rather than be somewhere in that grey scale. But you just choose not to drink. That's all I say.
Do you notice performance dips after even a small amount of alcohol?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I do. Just that inflammation. With the alcohol comes the tiredness, comes feeling, you know, sick in the stomach as soon as I've had it, or especially mixed with food. I just find it really hard to digest and feel good after that. So, 100% it impacts my performance, whether that's, you know, I would never drink before a race, but training, it does.
Quick side question. Do you think you'll have a drink after Project 1000?
Oh, you know, I don't know. I don't even know if I better walk after Project 1000. We're going a week and a half later, we're off to Thailand for a retreat, which has no alcohol. So I will not be drinking there, but maybe we'll open a bottle of champagne or go for a nice lunch or do something. But if I do, it's probably going to be a glass. Yeah. It's not something that I'm going, I want to finish and crack open and have a big drink and party afterwards. My party would not necessarily have a lot of alcohol for myself in. Everyone else can drink. Yeah.
What will be your end of race treat? Have you got anything that you're going to be keeping your mind on?
You know what? I think I'm going to be eating a lot of white carbs during those 2 weeks and a lot of sugar. So I'm probably going to want something savoury or something home cooked and healthy, I think, which is really sad. But I mean, the crap I'm going to eat along the way will make up for that.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. When you do the marathon, I always thought, oh God, I just want chocolate and cake and everything at the end of it. But after you've had all those gels and all of that, by the end of the race, you're like, I actually, not most of the time, I want a bacon sandwich, but like a BLT with crunchy lettuce and tomato and like the vegetables with the salt and the bacon and the sandwich.
It's the salt, I think, afterwards. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's going to be a savoury craving after that. Maybe it's a buffet or something. I can go and choose what I want. Curry, pizza, whatever it may be.
Love that. I don't just want one food. I want an entire buffet. I want it all laid out. I'm going to go to town on every different cuisine.
Yes. yes.
Okay, I love that. Okay, that's where I'm going to find you then. In a wheelchair, probably.
In a wheelchair, exactly.
They've been wheeled up to the different counters. Okay, we talk about the edge. Do you believe that total sobriety could take you to an even further level? I know you're almost at total sobriety.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I'm at 98%. I
Yeah.
think when you fill in the doctor's forms and they say, how many glasses do you drink a week? It's like, well, 0 really.
Yeah.
You know, ask me in a 6-month time frame rather than in a weekly time frame. So I don't think it would massively change my performance at this point. Yeah.
Do you think alcohol, even in small amounts, subtly limits our potential? Maybe not just with training, like with everything in life.
100%. I think with mind fog, like I said, I'm, a massive believer in sleep is the most important thing we can do to heal ourselves. So with sleep, with eating, with cravings, with everything, with mood, it does. It does impact everything. I think there was a study that came out that said, what's the recommendations now for alcohol intake? And it was basically, well, any intake is bad, which is the latest, recommendations.
Yeah. It is, and it's true. It was just even 1 glass a week was enough to help to build the anxiety, to throw my guts off, and you think it's the big binging, and of course that's a massive problem, but actually even small amounts can just be chipping away at you. And that was it for me. I just felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential, whether it was with training, whether it was with work, I wasn't being able to manage the stress well at work, or whether it was just being patient with my kids. I'm 100% with you. It can definitely limit our potential.
Yeah, and I think people they write it off as something else, but actually it's, I just had a bad sleep. Well, no, it was the alcohol you had before you had the bad sleep.
Yeah, yes. Can you be an ultra athlete and still drink occasionally?
Yes, 100%. And I must say, a lot of ultra runners, you'll see them at the end of every race, especially the races in the US, they give out beers at the finish line.
Yeah.
So it is part of the ultra community. A lot of, maybe not so much in Malaysia, but the US, there's always a drink. It's not excessive drinking, but people will, have a beer at the end of a drink, and these are world champions. So, I think yes is the answer.
And I think that's going to be great for people to hear is that, okay, maybe we've shit on alcohol a little bit on this conversation today. I think we're definitely pro no alcohol. But that being said, you can do it, right? You can train at this level. You can achieve these massive, massive goals and still have a drink occasionally.
Of course, and I think it's proven, people prove it time and time again, especially Europeans love a glass of wine, and it is part of their daily routine. So, it's whatever suits each individual person. I would never judge anyone for drinking. It's you do you. I'm not offended. I'm like each to their own, but I choose to do what I choose to do.
Yeah, 100% for sure. And so you have got a huge social media following. Let's just talk about you being a bit of a role model here. So do you feel like there's any pressure to be like a role model too with this social following that you've got?
Yeah, I feel like there's pressure. And, probably brought on by myself more than anything. It's something that I never set out to do, and it just happened and built up over the last 12 years. But generally my community's extremely positive. I'm not controversial out there, which is a decision I made a long time ago. So it's more just, this is what I'm doing. If you want to do something, do it in your way, come along for the ride. If this helps you, fantastic. But I think it's an interesting one, because as I get older, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting to be this old lady on social media now, and how inspiring is that? So I think there's always an underlying pressure to perform or to do something, but that's very much me being me and putting that pressure on myself. I mean, as I always say, most people don't really care.
Can I ask how old you are?
52.
Amazing. I'm going to be you at 52. Oh my God. This is so good. So good. Are you not like just proud? Like you must be so proud, right? Of everything that you're doing. And, you know, I don't know many 52-year-olds who can run 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I think as I'm getting older, I'm like hanging on for dear life. and it's just, you know, age isn't an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, what can we do to stay young and do it today? Well, we can still do it.
Yeah.
And this is what a healthy life looks like as you get older, because it allows you to do all of these things.
Yeah, that's it, right? And I think the more information that we're getting and the more it's kind of been proven over time is you've got a lot more in you, right? Even, yeah, what's next?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know I get asked that already. I know.
Okay, let's get this one done. Let's get this one. So look, just kind of maybe coming back to our listeners. So I really want to kind of encourage our listeners to identify maybe one area in their lives where they maybe feel that they've kind of reached their achievement ceiling. What can they do to break that ceiling? Is it finding a new challenge? Is it pushing themselves out of their comfort zone? Do you have any advice here?
Yeah, because no one's ever reached their ceiling. You know, I think that's first and foremost. If you think you have, then you need to take a step back and really reassess, you know, why you think you've reached the ceiling. I think we get comfortable, so that's what people think I've done my best. But no, I think it's, you know, let all expectations go and pick something that excites you or scares you a little bit. I think that's the key. Where, you know, if you think you've reached your ceiling, you haven't, push that little bit harder. It doesn't have to be something so extreme that you'll never reach it, but it should be something you maybe don't think you can do, because a goal should be something that you don't think is possible. And you've got to let the ego go, which I think is super important. And as I always say, no one's watching, you know, they're watching themselves. So just go for it. Who cares? You don't have to tell people you're doing it, but you are missing out if you're not getting to be a little bit uncomfortable, I think.
Some like incredible advice there. Like I love that. A few points in there I'm like, wow, yes, okay. I think just dream a little bit bigger as well. Don't be afraid to dream a little bit bigger and believe in yourself as well. Like anything is possible. What do you do to squash your kind of fear and doubt that creeps in?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's there, you know, like this 1,000 Ks. I don't know if I can do it. I've got no idea. Yeah. But I'm going to die trying. You know, that's it. So I think for me, the fear is a good thing because it's scaring me and it means I'm getting out of my comfort zone. But it's almost a calculated fear as well that, you know, you're not doing something so unsafe that, you know, you're putting your life at risk. But I think, you know, it's waking up feeling energized and feeling excited that maybe this thing's possible, that, you know, I didn't think I'd be doing this 10 years ago. Hell no. You know, so it's like looking back going, wow, you know, I've gone from running 10K to going to do this. So, why the heck not?
So inspiring. All right, I'm very much going to be kind of getting off this podcast. I'm going to be like, booking that ultra, getting it done.
Exactly right. I love it. Welcome to the gang.
Yeah.
Welcome to the cult.
It's all right. I'll be phoning you in a few weeks going, so I booked this ultra. You're going to do it with me. You need to coach me. I need some help. And so what wisdom can you share about finding like a sustainable approach as well, whether it's kind of moderation or periods of sobriety? Any advice for anyone wanting to drink less?
Yeah, I don't think you have to give up in one go. I think people think it's all or nothing, which is the biggest mistake, which is, you know, or they think it's all or nothing with food. It's very much not. It's just a little bit less. Yeah. And start from there. So, you know, give yourself a break, take the pressure off, but also hold yourself accountable too. So if you're going to commit to yourself to not drinking 7 days a week, you're going to drink 3 days a week, then hold yourself accountable to that. But it's not all or nothing. It's like going from running 10Ks to 1,000 Ks in a week. It's not ever going to happen. Yeah. So small steps, that's it.
That's been my biggest learnings about life that I've got from running is, you know, just chipping away at it like every single day. Like, you don't make progress overnight, but in 3 to 4 months, you can go from running 10K to running a marathon. You know, progress happens and you can see it over time. And it's definitely taught me patience, but, you know, and to stick with it.
Yeah, and I think it's a long-term outlook, right? So if you're going to do this, then think about it for the rest of your life. Don't think about it for the next 2 weeks. You know, don't worry about that social engagement that, oh, maybe I'll have to, you know, give up because I've decided that's not a drinking night. Think about it in 2 years' time where, oh, actually, I'm going to go and do all these things I wanted to do, and maybe drinking's got in the way of those. And I think, you know, as humans, and whether it's training for a marathon or whatever, a third of our training is fantastic, a third's average, and a third's really crappy. Yeah. And that'll be in anything that we do. So you're going to have great days when you've maybe given up drinking and have terrible days, but acknowledge them and acknowledge that the next day may be better.
Sounds like me with the chocolate. Like, definitely it was an ice cream weekend this weekend. I think the one last thing I just really wanted to touch on for the listeners is, you know, just, and you have just kind of mentioned it, is like there's no right path. You know, it is still choice and no shame, and, you know, just, yeah, taking it a day at a time. So if you are looking at drinking less, you know, just don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. And
do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. So I think that's the key too, because other people really don't care if you're drinking or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, be true to yourself and do it because it's something you want to do and there's an outcome that you want, rather than doing it for someone else.
Yeah, sounds like running.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So many similarities. What are we talking about on this podcast? Are we talking about running?
Drinking is the code word for running.
Yeah, that's basically going to be all of our conversations moving forward. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. I loved our conversation, and I'm really impressed that we managed to keep it to actually talk about alcohol and not my million questions that I've got about training and how to be a better runner. But really, thank you so much. I always say to people that David Goggins is my spirit animal. I hear his voice, like in my head. I hear it. But he might have just been replaced.
Oh, the female, I'm the nicer female version.
Yeah, I know. But I might get you to kind of record some sayings of
telling
like,
you to get off your ass.
Get out, yeah. Do it. Don't be such a pussy. Get out and go and do it. One final question. So this podcast is relatively new. I would love to hear from you. Is there anyone that I should talk to? Anyone that you think would be amazing?
Oh, yeah, that's
always put people on the spot with this.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting from a medical point of view to speak to someone about learning how alcohol changes the brain and things too, and a sleep expert. Yes. You know, I think, you know, just we can talk about it, we can talk about our experience, but sometimes people need a bit of scientific help. Yeah. I think it would be also good to talk to some teenagers about it too.
That's it. I definitely want to speak to some Gen Z and just, talk about their
yes.
What they're feeling about alcohol and if they even feel anything.
Yes, exactly right.
They don't care at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. We might be thinking they care and they don't.
Yeah. It's just not even a thing for them, which, to be fair, will be awesome. Be so, so, so good. Thank you so much to all my listeners. I'm really trying to build a community here of people who want to drink less, who maybe want to look at what life with less alcohol can look like, or maybe just feel that they're not reaching their full potential and want to find ways to cut down. So if you like this podcast, please add any comments, like, share, and tell me what you liked and what you didn't and what you'd like to see more of. I'd love to hear from you. I will link to Project 1000.
Thank you.
I'm going to link to Natalie or at Rockstar Arms. We're not going to get into why you're called at Rockstar Arms. I'm sure you're sick of talking about that one. But I'll link to all of Natalie's socials below. And thank you very much, Natalie, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I really
enjoyed it.
It's been
great.
Thanks.